Welcome to Soul Searching. Our guest today is Amy McKinley. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, thank you.
You know, it's so funny just even how we meet and kind of these just life experiences. But one of my high school friends is one of your friends now up in Bellingham. And she knew that I was running a half marathon and invited me to join your crew at the Leavenworth one. So we all shared stayed at a cabin together. You know, it's like kind of joining into my friends group of friends. And we just hit it off right from the beginning that you just made such a great impression. I remember the very first thing I said to you was like, you're so expressive. Like you were telling a story. And of course, I teaching public speaking and storytelling, I was like mesmerized by you. So I guess, first of all, how did you get to be so expressive and just like so animated?
I don't know. I just have a lot of feelings
Yeah.
and a lot of passion for the world, and it just comes out with my hands and my voice and just how I live my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Anything.
I remember complimenting you, and you told me that your son is deaf. And so, hey, God knew which
Yes.
mom to give him to, because, there's somebody who's like really, somebody who's deaf, to be able to have somebody who uses her hands and is really
Yep.
expressive. And, obviously this is about soul searching. And I think some of that comes from parenting. So maybe tell us a little bit about the story of Max.
Oh gosh, Mighty Max is God had a lot of lessons he wanted to teach me, and he brought this little nugget of joy and passion and challenges and um, just seeing the world in such a different light in his body and his brain. And he is 15 years old now. And when he was born prematurely with a very serious genetic disorder called Charge syndrome. And boy, I get emotional just thinking back to those days, because he wasn't expected to live. He spent 6 months in the ICU and was in and out of the hospital after that for a long time. And luckily we were able to bring him home, and now he is incredibly healthy. He still has a lot of challenges, some medical challenges, a lot of developmental challenges, but it's hard to put into words when you get to experience every little moment with your kid, and you can either look at it with sadness or you can look at it with, oh my goodness. Like sometimes I'll just look over at him, I'm like, he's eating independently, like mind blown. Or he'll walk ahead of me, I'm like, he's walking. And he has taught me so much about how you can view the world. Like, what lens do you want to choose from, right? I could look at him and say, oh, he's never really going to be able to run or do any of the sports other kids do. But instead I choose, I'm like, oh my God, he's moving all by himself. And that is the greatest lesson I think any of us can learn, is just how we perceive our world. And that's obviously a lesson that God wanted me to learn over and over again. And I so appreciate him having that trust in me to bring this miracle kid into my life. And, there's a lot of joy. Of course, there's a lot of challenges, just like any parent has, right? But he just has me look in the world in a very different way.
Yeah. And thank you for helping to see that. And I think, being friends with you and following you on social media, like, you're so uplifting. And it's interesting, I think to myself, because I've got a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, I think about some of the challenges that I have, I'm like, oh, I'm so worried. My son's skiing. What if he gets hurt? Or, like, oh, I hope they get an A instead of an A minus. And, it's just so easy to get caught up in kind of little things. And then I'll be scrolling along and I'll see yours. And I'm like, oh my God, Amy, like, you handle with such grace. And I think it does. I mean, I hate to say, oh, you make me more appreciative. I think what you do is you remind me about the importance of mindset and being grateful. And, and maybe you're right, the challenges of a special needs kid or, a regular needs kid, there are different challenges, but I really appreciate how transparent you are. And I just, every time I see you, like, you're just very uplifting and remind me to be positive. And like you say, like, what do I choose to see here? I guess, especially during this pandemic, Tell us more about that experience and what, like, you seem so willing to discuss like the life lessons you're learning. So what has this
Yeah.
year brought for you?
It, I think we all learned a lot, right? Like we had to. And just to your point, Nikki, every parent or anyone, not even if you have kids or not, right? We all have our unique challenges, right? So whether a child has special needs or not, like it just is. And I have a lot of people that say to me, like, I just can't complain because you have so much more. And I'm like, and there's other people that have so much more than me, right? Like it just is. It's life. So give yourself a little extra self-love for you being an amazing parent that you are.
Thank you. It just is. Okay.
Yeah.
Even just how you say that.
It just is.
Thank you.
And the pandemic, I'm looking up, just like, contemplating just all the lessons we all got to learn this past year. And for me, at first I was like, oh my goodness, he has an entire team when he's at school, right? And now it's me. And I was like, oh, my shoulders just felt like instantly, there's no way I can do all this. And then I changed my mindset. One of my favorite 3 words that I can ever say to myself or anyone else to change our mindset is I get to. Not I have to, I get to, right? So I get to be his one-on-one, during that pandemic year. That'll be a year I never regret having so much time with him, because I got to experience every aspect of his education, right? Every minute of his day. I got to know him so much more intimately than I could have ever done that at this age. And I got to know his team, and there's just all these I get to moments. Now, granted, there were moments too, right? Like I don't want to.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was a lot of
I'm sure sometimes it feels like I have to.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
but it was like, but it was just like, okay, stop, redirect. Like, this is where we are in life, right? Like sometimes this just is. And how do I just change that lens on it? And we didn't do everything perfectly. We took, instead of doing a lot of classes, we ended up just taking a lot of walks. But I was like, well, I get to decide what I'm going to do with my kid. Like, it was like, I get to. Yeah. So pandemic life was interesting, especially he has a lot of, he's very high risk for the pandemic, just all the different, anyway, he's got a lot of issues that could have put him in high risk. And so we had to really be careful about not exposing him at all. And so that was a little nervous, but at the same time, he's so healthy. We do so much proactive care for him that it wasn't a big worry, but it was still in the back of my mind,
Sure. Well, and I wonder too, because it's all you. And so I guess a question is like, how did you take care of yourself? Like you can't, have a glass of wine with a girlfriend or something, or like see people or whatnot, normally if you have more of a team of people. So I guess, how did you take care of yourself? Because you're giving, I just keep thinking about that oxygen mask analogy, people say, put on your own oxygen mask before you help others, and you're helping him tremendously. So what did you do to help yourself?
I used to always hate that expression, the oxygen mask one, but this year it definitely did resonate more with me than ever. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, okay, I'm just going to start my day earlier. I'm going to just wake up at 5 or 5:30 every day and instantly go outside and go for a walk and have 30 minutes of me time, of walking, moving my body, getting inspiration. I would listen to an energizing, like an inspiring podcast. I like to combine the words inspiring and energizing all together. And I have not missed a day. Like, so I just make sure every day that there's some movement. And that really helped start my day every day, knowing that I would show up for me. And then I really just focused on another movement during the day as well. Like daily movement to me is so important for my mindset and for not just physical health, but brain health as well. And then I started getting into, and I'm not a meditation kind of girl, but started incorporating nightly meditation and just having those routines in place, because there's gonna be a lot of days where we don't want to move our bodies, right? We're not going to want to eat healthy. We're not going to want to go to bed at a certain time, but just knowing like, well, this is what it is. Like this is what works for us. And without those habits in place, without those healthy habits, I don't know how well it would have felt after a year of this, right?
Yeah. One other thing, that I just love. Well, and you can tell us a little bit more about your business, but happier, healthy living. And actually just, my son loves that deep blue, from all his skiing and whatnot. And I just ordered some new, and this is just so like you, a really sweet card on the back, and it says, let your love shine. And you're like, hey, a little something extra for you. It's like a little cheerleader energy. So I've been using that too. But I remember, can you even just show us the box breathing? I remember seeing one of those on Instagram. It was just like 10 seconds worth, and I did it along with you on mute even. And I was like, oh my God, that just like reset my day. So would you show us that too?
Yeah, for me, I just take an essential oil during the day. Usually it's like a calming, one of my favorite calming ones. And I just take a couple drops in the palm of my hand and I breathe that in first and then let that work on your limbic system. It's amazing how grounded you can feel instantly. And then you incorporate that with breathing and you just kind of visualize a box of breathing, inhaling in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds. So you just draw, like, I love drawing in my mind, like,
like
in, out,
in, out,
hold. Yep.
in, out. Yeah. Okay.
And it's just amazing that 20, 30 seconds you can take for yourself.
Yeah.
Because we all have those moments where we're just not our best selves, right? Whether it's with our partner or our coworker or our kid, and you just need to take a time out. And I love with essential oils and breathing, you can take that time out and you can instantly change your mindset within.
Oh, absolutely. And even just now I put it on too, but you're right. It's like the smell of it, the routine of it. It's just like enough. It's just like a rebooting of our computers.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly, I tell people, like, it's like a reset button. Like your TV has a reset button, your computer does, and your body does too. So use it.
Tell us more, I guess, like you'd said, I get to, what else, like either, in morning practice, you've got that, like, what are some of the other like practices that you put in place to stay positive and so cheerful for other people too? Or if there's like even scripture or there's phrases or anything like that, like, what do you say to yourself?
Because there's been some time this past month was probably one of the hardest months for me in pandemic the whole time. And I've heard that from a lot of other people too, just that fatigue, right? Of just like, when is this going to be over? I need my just life to return. And so I had to really lean in on just some of my, those core beliefs of that we are given struggles for a reason. And like, I love Oprah's quote of turning your wounds into wisdom. So I just really thinking of that. So when I was struggling this past month, I thought, okay, I'm learning something here. I am learning that there's gonna be other people that are struggling around me and it's going to help me show up better for them. Like sometimes even when, like, I don't ever get headaches, but when I do get any head tension, I'm like, okay, thank you for reminding me what a headache feels like, God. So now I can help other people when they have headaches, like just giving that, just remind myself when I'm in that darker place that is teaching me empathy for others who are struggling on a longer term basis or just struggling, and I can show up for them in a better way. So
thank you. That definitely hits. I think like some of the values and some of the things that I've also been, learning from the soul searching is just the importance of having that purpose, and finding meaning through things is something useful. I think another like big one that I found is around connection. And, something that we quickly were able to do that. I think that's one way. Like, how do you get and like maybe even use being like vulnerable, to get to have like a real connection with people, like take it from like, hey, how are you, surface level, to the kind of person that you can like really trust and have a meaningful connection with? What best practice have you found?
I think just showing up and sharing really how you are. So when people say, how are you? It's so easy, as you said, for us to say, oh, good, how are you? And we all lean on to that some days, right? But just, I've really enjoyed, we have a really pretty large wellness community. And I love that we talk very openly about mental health. And so now people feel really comfortable coming to me and saying, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with this. I'm like, you know what, me too. Like, and so the more vulnerable we can be about ourselves, the more others can feel open to us. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But if we keep showing up and saying, everything's great, I'm great, then no one's going to want to, like, we have to let our crack show and let the light show to us, and then we can give it to others as well. And I think when people have been through something hard in their life, they do get that raw openness about them, that they are just more like, yep, I've been through this. I can get through something else and I can help you too. And I think if we can just all be more real with each other, like, and I think that hopefully is going to be one of the silver linings of pandemic is that people were struggling together, right? Like we were separated, but we were all going through something similar in different ways. And that mental health was talked about, I feel like a lot more in the past, year. And hopefully going forward that we can all share that too. Like, hey, I'm having a low day or I'm having a low week. Right. This is what's happening instead of just acting like rosy sunshine, because we all have those bad days.
Do you feel like it's changed, like your relationship with some people? Maybe like, I don't know, like I can imagine people have had a lot more struggles. Like, has anyone come to you and been like, oh my gosh, Amy, I didn't get what you've been through, now having to be like the parent and doing virtual training, like what virtual school or whatever, like has it changed where other people, it's like you said about the headache, have you felt like anyone's come to you and go, I didn't get what you were going through before and now I do?
I think to some degree, but we're all going through, we all even experience pandemic life so differently too, right? So, but I think all of us having a similar experience as far as isolation brought us together, right? Because typically our challenges are also different, and this one was more similar. But I think if anything, it helped people reach out with more vulnerability, and as like that card said, like let your love shine and let your light shine, and also let your sadness be there too, because that's part of life too. There's welcoming in the sadness and the grief so that we can also welcome in the joy and the positive energy. And I just hope moving forward that we can continue to be more vulnerable with each other and more real. And I love the idea of how many businesses are now exploring different ways of meeting their employees' needs. And like, what is that going to look like? And how can we have healthier families in general and happier families? And I'm fascinated by what is going to be ahead of us and what this has taught us.
It seems like society is realizing, hey, there was something we got wrong, the maybe 8 to 5 in the office all the time or something, or just prioritizing, stuff. I think there's been some collective learnings. Yeah. What's been one for you personally that you have changed your mind about? You used to think one way, you got some new life experience or some new information, and you have a different perspective.
Gosh, that's a great question, Nikki. This is a minor one, is that you can work out from home.
Yeah, okay.
A minor one. But you know what, just and it teaches us just in general that we can be more flexible and find ways to create a life that we want, right? Like I feel like in the beginning of the pandemic, people are like, well, I can't work out anymore because I can't go to the gym, or I can't do this anymore because of this. And it's like, or we be creative and find a different way to do it, right? Or like, I can't connect with my friends. Well, for me, I found that I was able to connect with more friends in a way, because all of a sudden if I'm going to be on Zoom, I might as well connect with my college girlfriends, or I can connect with those, this group of friends. And you have it just opened our mind to be more creative in general. And that was really cool. Like even with my business, we tend to do a lot of our classes and such in person. And then we found no, we can meet with people all over the world and just do it virtually. And yeah, it's not the same as knee to knee, but it's still this beautiful connection we can make virtually as well. And I think it'd be interesting to see going forward, how can we combine all the best of both worlds? But I loved finding that creative, even with my son in his school, knowing okay, it taught us how we can be more creative with his education. And just finding, I don't know if you can hear him, he's making a lot of noise downstairs right now. He's very excited about having pizza for lunch. Okay. So I think just being more creative and not getting stuck in our rut of what has to happen, Yeah.
You said when you gave this, hey, it's like a cheerleader in a bottle. And I feel like that's kind of what you are. So I don't know if there's a quote that you would finish us off with. What would you say to inspire / energize?
I don't know. Honestly, I would go back to, I get to. Okay. Those 3 words. If you can just throughout the day, instead of I have to make dinner for my family, I get to make dinner. I have a family. Yeah. I have food, I have the ability to make dinner. There was one day recently we had a lot of appointments for my son at Children's Hospital, and it was just a day of a bunch of easily could have gone in the route of I have to. And I was like, wait, hold up. I have a car. My kid is alive. We have an amazing hospital within hours reach of getting there. Like, and it was like, whoa, I drove in the car and I was like, I'm so happy about going to the hospital. And so if we can all take that with us throughout the day of like, I get to go work out, or I get to go to work, or I get to go to sleep early because I'm going to wake up and have an amazing day tomorrow. Like, what a change in our lives that we could experience.
That's awesome.
So
I wore this shirt in your honor. It says, we rise by lifting others.
Oh.
And that is something that you have done for me over these past few years. And for our listeners, on Instagram, what's your handle? Is it Happier, Healthier Living?
Happier, Healthier Living. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You guys check Amy out, follow her. She's great. You know, oils, I think they can make such an impact, you know, to help us reboot. Just anything we can do for, you know, some of that kind of self-care, take care of ourselves, both mentally and physically. Amy, thank you so much for coming in and being like, crack open and feel all the feelings and share them with us. We really are grateful for a human connection and just finding ways to have some more of that purpose. And you're a joy spreader. So thank you.
Oh,